This is not a motivational audiobook. This is a line in the sand. In 2026, excuses will not save you. Emotions will not carry you. Waiting to feel ready will cost you everything. The people who win in 2026 will not be louder, luckier, or more inspired. They will be calmer. They will be disciplined. They will show up even when they don't feel like it. This audiobook is about removing excuses at the root, training your mind to work without motivation, to focus without emotion, and to execute quietly every single day. If you are ready to stop explaining and start producing, stay with me. Chapter 1. Stop waiting to feel ready. Most people are waiting. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting to feel confident. Waiting to feel motivated. And while they wait, life moves on without them. Here's the truth you need to hear clearly. Readiness is an emotional illusion. It feels responsible. It feels mature. It feels safe. But it is a lie your emotions tell you to delay action. Disciplined people do not feel ready. They act anyway. You have a choice. You can wait for confidence, or you can build it. And confidence is not built by thinking. It is built by doing. That's the key. Most people get this backward. They believe clarity comes first, then action. They believe motivation appears, then effort follows. They believe confidence shows up, then they move. But reality works in the opposite direction. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. Say it again. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. When you start moving, your mind adjusts. When you begin the work, uncertainty shrinks. When you take the first uncomfortable step, the fog starts to clear. You don't need to feel ready. You need to move. Waiting to feel ready is how people stay stuck for years. They call it preparation. They call it planning. They call it being careful. But underneath, it is fear wearing professional clothing. And fear is emotional. Discipline is behavioral. It's not about confidence. It's about commitment. Look at the people who are consistent, the ones who show up every day, the ones who make progress quietly. They didn't start confident. They didn't start inspired. They started before they were sure. They started when it felt awkward. They started when it felt incomplete. They started while doubting themselves. That's the difference. You have a choice. You can let emotions decide when you act, or you can decide once and act regardless of emotion. That's mental toughness. Most people let their feelings vote every day. Do I feel like it? Am I in the right mindset? Is today the right day? Disciplined people don't ask those questions. They already decided. They decided that work happens at a certain time. They decided that effort is non-negotiable. They decided that emotions are allowed, but not in charge. That's the key. When you wait to feel ready, you give your emotions authority they don't deserve. You let temporary feelings control permanent outcomes. You don't need their permission. Not your fears, not your doubts, not anyone else's. You decide. Then you move. Say it again. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. Every day you delay, the task grows heavier in your mind. Every day you start, it shrinks. That's not magic, that's psychology. Your brain respects movement. It punishes avoidance. So stop negotiating, stop waiting, stop preparing endlessly. Decide what must be done today, then do it without emotion. You have a choice, and this choice repeats daily. This chapter is simple because discipline is simple, not easy. Simple. You act first. You adjust second. you gain confidence last. That's the order. You stopped waiting to feel ready. Now it's time to understand what actually keeps people moving when feelings fail.
Chapter 2. Motivation is unreliable. Systems are not. Motivation feels powerful. It feels exciting. It feels like the engine of progress. And that is exactly why it fails you. Motivation is emotional. Emotions fluctuate. Anything that fluctuates cannot be trusted to build a life. That's the truth most people don't want to accept. You have a choice. You can build your life on motivation, or you can build it on systems. One collapses under pressure, the other holds. That's the key. Motivation shows up when things are new, when the idea is fresh, when the vision feels exciting. But the moment repetition enters the picture, motivation disappears. Discipline stays. It's not about feeling inspired. It's about knowing what happens next. A system is a pre-decided behavior. It removes thinking. It removes negotiation. It removes emotional debate. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? Systems say, this is what we do. You don't need their permission, not from your mood, not from your energy level. Most people stop because motivation leaves. Disciplined people continue because the system remains. That's mental toughness. Look at anyone who is consistent, physically, financially, creatively, professionally. They are not more motivated than you. They are more structured than you. They decided once. Then they stopped deciding. That's the key. Every time you rely on motivation, you force yourself to renegotiate the same decision again and again, and every negotiation costs energy. Should I do it today? Maybe tomorrow. I'll start when I feel better. That is mental exhaustion disguised as flexibility. You have a choice: decision fatigue or disciplined automation. Systems protect your focus. They create default behavior. When the system exists, effort becomes predictable. When effort is predictable, results compound. It's not about willpower. It's about removing friction. Most people overestimate their willpower and underestimate their emotions. They think they'll push through. They think they'll rise to the occasion. But pressure doesn't elevate you. It exposes you. And under pressure, you don't rise, you default. That's why systems matter. A system says, at this time, I work. On this task, I focus. For this duration, I do not negotiate. No inspiration required. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. And systems create action. Motivation waits for clarity. Systems create it. That's the difference. Here's where most people get stuck. They believe systems are restrictive. They think structure kills creativity. They think discipline limits freedom. The opposite is true. Systems create freedom by removing chaos. They free your mind from constant decision-making. They free your energy for execution. You don't need their permission to work. You don't need to feel aligned. You need to follow the system you chose when you were calm. That's emotional control. A simple system beats a complex plan every time. Same time, same place, same behavior, repeated daily. That's it. The brain respects consistency. It adapts to patterns. When you show up at the same time every day, resistance decreases. The work becomes familiar. Familiarity reduces friction. Motivation fades. Systems settle in. You have a choice. React to how you feel or operate on schedule. Operating on schedule builds trust with yourself. Every time you show up when you said you would, your self-respect increases. Confidence follows behavior, not the other way around. Say it again. Confidence follows behavior. That's the key. Motivation is external. It depends on circumstances. Systems are internal. They depend on commitment. If your progress depends on how you feel, your progress is unstable. If your progress depends on a system, it becomes inevitable. It's not about passion, it's about repetition. Most people quit because they are tired of starting over. Systems prevent restarts. You don't restart a system, you resume it. That's quiet discipline. Here is the instruction. Decide your minimum standard, not your best day standard, your worst day standard. What will you do even when tired, even when bored, even when unmotivated? That minimum is your system. You don't need to feel powerful to execute it. You just need to follow it. That's mental toughness. You don't rise to motivation, you fall to systems. Say it again. You don't rise to motivation, you fall to systems. And in 2026, motivation will not save you. Life will be loud, distractions will be endless, emotions will fluctuate daily. Systems will be your anchor. You have a choice, chaos or structure, emotion or discipline. Stop chasing motivation. Start building systems. You've learned this now. You've removed another excuse. You stopped waiting to feel ready. You stopped trusting motivation. Now it's time to address the thing that silently destroys focus more than anything else.
Chapter 3. Emotional control is a performance skill. Most people believe emotions are something that happen to them. They believe emotions are uncontrollable. They believe emotions excuse behavior. That belief is costing them performance. Here is the truth. Emotional control is not a personality trait. It is a trained skill, and like any skill, it improves with repetition or weakens with neglect. You have a choice. You can let emotions run the day, or you can train yourself to perform regardless of them. That's the key. High performers are not emotionless. They feel frustration, they feel doubt, they feel pressure. The difference is simple and brutal. They do not obey what they feel. They observe it, they manage it, then they act anyway. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about refusing to let them dictate behavior. Most people lose focus not because the task is hard, but because an emotion shows up and hijacks moment. Boredom, irritation, anxiety, self-doubt. And instead of staying present, they react. Reaction is the enemy of performance. You have a choice: react or respond. Reaction is automatic. Response is trained. That's mental toughness. Think about pressure situations, deadlines, conflict, fatigue. These moments don't create weakness, they reveal training. When pressure hits, your emotional habits take over. If your habit is to escape discomfort, you'll quit. If your habit is to react emotionally, you'll lose focus. If your discipline is steady, you'll stay steady. That's the key. Emotional control begins with a pause, a small gap between feeling and action. Most people don't create that gap. They feel something and immediately move. Anger speaks and they lash out. Stress hits and they shut down. Doubt appears and they avoid the work. That gap is where control lives. You don't need their permission to stay focused. Not your frustrations, not your fears, not your impatiences. You decide how you respond. And here's what most people miss. Emotional control improves performance immediately. When emotions settle, focus sharpens. When reactions stop, energy is conserved. Emotions drain energy when you fight them or follow them. Control saves energy. It's not about being calm all the time. It's about being calm enough to execute. Say it again. Calm enough to execute. That's the standard. Most people treat emotions like commands.
Disciplined people treat them like data, information, not instruction. I feel tired. Noted. Work continues. I feel distracted. Noted. Focus returns. I feel frustrated. Noted. Task remains. You have a choice. Obey the feeling or observe it and move forward. That's emotional control. And emotional control is trained the same way discipline is trained, through repetition in small moments, not during breakdowns, during ordinary days. When something annoys you and you don't react, that's a rep. When boredom shows up and you stay, that's a rep. When doubt whispers and you work anyway, that's a rep. These reps compound. Action creates clarity, not the other way around, and emotional control creates action. Most people wait for emotions to settle before acting. Disciplined people act, and emotions settle after. That's the key. Here's a hard truth. If you cannot control your emotions during normal conditions, you will collapse under pressure. Pressure amplifies habits. It does not create new ones. That's why emotional discipline must be practiced when stakes are low, when the task feels boring, when no one is watching. Quiet discipline. You don't need to feel good to work well. You need to feel controlled. And control does not mean perfection. It means consistency. You will still feel things. You just won't be moved by them. You have a choice. Be emotionally driven or behaviorally disciplined. One creates chaos, the other creates results. Most distractions are emotional exits. Phones, noise, procrastination. These are not time problems, they are avoidance responses. The work feels uncomfortable, so the emotion seeks relief. Emotional control is staying with the discomfort without dramatizing it. That's mental toughness. Here's the instruction. When emotion rises, lower the volume, not the standard. Do not reduce the task. Do not negotiate effort. Reduce reactivity. Slow your breath, still your body, return to the task. Simple, not easy. That's the work. You don't need their permission to stay focused. You don't need to express everything you feel. You don't need emotional release every time something feels uncomfortable. Discipline is restraint. Restraint is strength. Say it again. Restraint is strength. In 2026, emotional chaos will be everywhere. Noise, outrage, distraction, constant stimulation. The people who win will not be louder. They will be calmer. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control, and control is a performance advantage. You have a choice. Train emotional control daily or let emotions train you. One makes you steady, the other makes you reactive. You've learned this now. You've removed another excuse. You stopped waiting to feel ready. You stopped relying on motivation. You learned to control your emotions instead of being controlled by them. Now it's time to confront something that quietly destroys discipline for most people: the need to be seen.
Chapter 4. Do the work without an audience. Most people don't quit because the work is hard. They quit because no one is watching. They lose interest when there's no applause. They slow down when there's no feedback. They stop when the effort feels invisible. That is the hidden weakness. Here's the truth. The need to be seen destroys discipline, and the faster you remove the audience from your mind, the stronger your work ethic becomes. You have a choice: work to be noticed or work to be effective. That's the key. An audience changes behavior. When people know they're being watched, they perform. When the attention disappears, so does the effort. That means the discipline was never real. It was borrowed from external validation. Real discipline works in silence. The most important work you will ever do happens when no one is paying attention. No comments, no likes, no praise. Just you and the task. That's where consistency is built. You don't need their permission, not their approval, not their recognition.
If your effort depends on being seen, your progress will always be fragile. Most people confuse visibility with progress. They announce goals, they share plans, they talk about what they're going to do, and the brain rewards them prematurely with relief. Talking replaces doing. That's the key. The moment you explain your intentions, pressure releases, the urgency fades, the work loses weight. This is why disciplined people are quiet. Silence preserves tension. Tension fuels execution. Quiet discipline. You have a choice: explain or execute. Execution compounds, explanation exhausts. Look at people who actually produce results over long periods of time. They don't broadcast every step. They don't seek reassurance. They don't need encouragement to continue. They already decided. That decision doesn't need witnesses. It's not about motivation, it's about identity. When you need to be seen, your identity depends on others. When you work in silence, your identity becomes internal. That's mental toughness. Most people want progress to feel good immediately. They want recognition to confirm they're on the right path, but real progress feels lonely at first. That loneliness is not a problem, it's proof you're early. You have a choice: seek comfort through validation or build strength through solitude. That's the trade. Doing the work without an audience trains a critical skill: self-trust. When you show up daily without anyone reminding you, praising you, or checking on you, you prove something to yourself. You prove you are reliable. That's the key. Self-trust grows when actions align with promises, especially when no one is watching. Every silent rep builds internal authority. You don't need their permission to take yourself seriously. You don't need encouragement to follow through. You don't need accountability partners to do what you already decided. External accountability is temporary. Internal discipline is permanent. That's quiet power. Most distractions are not about boredom, they're about invisibility. When effort feels unseen, the mind looks for stimulation: phones, noise, entertainment, anything to feel acknowledged. Discipline is staying with the task even when it feels unrewarded. Say it again: unrewarded for now, because the reward comes later, always later. Action creates clarity, not the other way around, and silent action creates momentum. People who work quietly build leverage. When results finally show, they appear sudden to outsiders, but nothing about them was sudden. They were just unseen. You have a choice: perform for attention or build for results. Attention fades, results remain. That's the difference. Here's a hard truth: if you need someone to tell you you're doing well, you will stop when they stop talking. If you need to be seen to stay disciplined, you are not disciplined yet. But that can change. Every day you choose to work without announcing it, you strengthen this muscle. Every day you resist the urge to share progress prematurely, you deepen focus. Silence sharpens intent. That's the key. This is not about isolation, it's about independence. You can still collaborate, you can still communicate, but your work does not depend on reaction. You don't check who noticed. You don't measure effort by response. You measure it by completion. That's discipline. Most people want credit before completion. Disciplined people want completion before credit. Say it again: completion before credit. That mindset alone will separate you. In 2026, noise will increase. Everyone will be talking. Everyone will be reacting. Everyone will be sharing opinions, progress, and plans. The advantage will belong to those who stay quiet and work. Calm focus, silent effort, consistent execution. You don't need their permission to build something meaningful. You don't need to prove anything mid-process. You don't need to be seen today. You need to finish. That's the standard now. Working without an audience is uncomfortable at first. The ego wants reassurance. The mind wants feedback. But if you stay, something changes. The need fades, the focus deepens, the discipline hardens. That's mental toughness. You have a choice: feed the ego or feed the work. One makes noise, the other makes progress. You've removed another excuse. You stopped waiting to feel ready. You stopped relying on motivation. You learned to control your emotions. You learned to work without applause. Now it's time to sharpen the most valuable skill of all, the ability to say no.
Chapter 5. Focus is saying no repeatedly. Focus is not what most people think it is. Focus is not working hard. Focus is not grinding endlessly. Focus is saying no, over and over again, to everything that does not serve your purpose. You have a choice. You can say yes to every opportunity, distraction, and impulse, or you can say no and preserve your energy. That's the key. Most people confuse busyness with progress. They fill their schedules with meetings, social media, calls, and side projects. They think being active is the same as being effective. It isn't. Saying yes to everything means saying no to the work that actually matters. Discipline is choosing where your energy goes. Focus is guarding that energy like a fortress. You don't need their permission. You don't need anyone else to prioritize for you. You decide what is essential and you ignore the rest. That's mental toughness. Every day you are bombarded with requests, texts, emails, notifications, social obligations. Every time you give in, you lose a little clarity, a little momentum, a little control. Saying no is uncomfortable. That's why most people avoid it. But discomfort is the price of mastery. Repeat this. I have a choice. I say no to protect my focus. Every successful person you admire has said no thousands of times before achieving results. They rejected distractions, avoided unnecessary drama, and ignored noise that would have diluted their effort. That's the key. Focus is subtraction, not addition. You don't do more, you do less better. And that less requires ruthless elimination of the trivial. Let's break it down. Say no to low-value tasks, meetings that don't matter, emails that can wait, requests that aren't urgent. Every unnecessary yes takes energy from high-impact work. Say no to attention-seeking behavior, social media scrolling, mindless entertainment, distractions disguised as breaks. Each one chips away at clarity. Say no to emotional hijacks, anger, anxiety, gossip, drama. When you engage, you lose focus. When you ignore, you maintain control. You have a choice: react or ignore. Every time you ignore, your discipline grows. Every time you react, your control diminishes. Repetition creates power. You must say no repeatedly until it becomes automatic. Your brain will resist. It will ask for variety. It will tempt you with novelty. It will make saying no feel like denial. That is exactly why you must repeat it. Discipline is built in the moment of resistance. Focus is created through repeated rejection of distractions. Here's a reality check. Success is never about what you say yes to, it's about what you say no to. Every yes without strategy is a silent defeat. Every yes without purpose is wasted time. You have a choice. Every decision can be strategic or it can be a surrender to chaos. That's the key. When you master saying no, something powerful happens. Clarity rises, energy multiplies. Tasks that once felt overwhelming shrink because attention is concentrated. The mind becomes sharp, the work becomes easier. You don't need their permission. You don't need motivation. You just need discipline. Saying no is a performance skill. Saying no repeatedly is a lifestyle. Here's your instruction. Identify what matters most. Write it down. Decide what is essential for your 2026 goals. Then say no to everything else, over and over until it becomes instinct.
Every time a distraction appears, repeat, "Not now, not for me." Focus first. The people who succeed in silence aren't busy, they are selective. They aren't distracted, they are disciplined. They aren't overwhelmed, they say no repeatedly. That's the key. This chapter is simple because focus is simple. Not easy, simple. You don't say yes to everything, you say no to almost everything. Then you concentrate on the one thing that creates results. You've removed another excuse. You stopped waiting to feel ready. You stopped relying on motivation. You controlled your emotions. You worked without an audience. Now you are learning to guard your energy. You mastered saying no. Now it's time to endure what most people run from, the boredom that builds mastery.
Chapter 6. Boredom is the price of mastery. Most people quit before they even start. Not because the work is hard, not because the task is impossible. They quit because it's boring. Boredom is the silent killer of progress. It's quiet. It sneaks in and convinces you to stop. The mind hates repetition, monotony, and discomfort. That's why most people never master anything. Here's the truth. Boredom is the price you pay for mastery. Every skill, every achievement, every result requires repetition. Repetition is boring. And if you quit boredom, you quit results. You have a choice. Run from boredom or embrace it as your training ground. That's the key. Look at the people who succeed in their fields. Athletes, writers, entrepreneurs, musicians. Do you think they love doing the same drills every day? Do you think they enjoy endless edits, exercises, or repetitions? No. They tolerate it. They endure it. They do it anyway. Boredom is not an enemy, it's a test. It separates those who want results from those who only want excitement. It's the filter that reveals who is disciplined and who is shallow. You don't need their permission. You don't need entertainment. You don't need instant gratification. You need patience. You need persistence. You need endurance. Every time you feel bored, say, "This is the price. I will pay it anyway." Most people confuse comfort with progress. They chase variety, stimulation, and novelty, thinking it will make them grow. It doesn't. Growth is built in the mundane, the repetitive, the unglamorous. Repetition creates skill. Skill creates confidence. Confidence creates results. That's the chain. You have a choice. Do you chase excitement or do you chase results? The difference is simple. Boredom precedes mastery. Discomfort precedes achievement. Repetition precedes excellence. You cannot avoid it. You cannot skip it. You cannot negotiate with it. Every hour you endure repetition without distraction, your mind becomes stronger. Every time you resist novelty and stay with the work, your focus becomes sharper. Every moment you embrace boredom, your discipline grows. That's mental toughness. Here's where most people fail. They confuse productivity with enjoyment. They quit the task because it feels tedious. They quit the practice because it feels dull. They quit the process because it is repetitive. And the result? Nothing. You have a choice. Stop quitting boredom or stop expecting results. Repeat this. I endure, I persist, I master. Boredom is not punishment. It's a signal that you are on the path others are too weak to follow. It is proof that you are practicing the skill of consistency. Discipline does not feel exciting. Execution does not feel thrilling. Mastery does not feel immediate. It feels boring. It feels slow. It feels monotonous. That's the key. Your brain will rebel. It will tempt you with distraction, social media, games, entertainment, anything to relieve monotony. It will whisper, "Do something else, anything easier." Ignore it.
Every time you ignore it, you strengthen focus. Every time you endure, you strengthen mental toughness. Every repetition becomes a brick in the foundation of mastery. You have a choice: avoid boredom or earn excellence. Most people stop at the first sign of dullness. The disciplined stay. The consistent endure. The winners continue. Boredom is temporary. Results are permanent. Say it again. Boredom is temporary. Results are permanent. Here's the instruction. Pick the work that matters most, the task that drives results, and do it even when it's repetitive, even when it's slow, even when it's tedious. This is how skill is built. This is how routines become unstoppable. This is how quiet discipline compounds into achievement. You don't need their permission to endure. You don't need excitement. You don't need instant gratification. You need patience. You need grit. You need repetition. The choice is yours. Comfort or mastery, distraction or focus. Remember this: boredom is the price. Consistency is the payment. Mastery is the reward. You've removed another excuse. You waited no longer. You acted without motivation. You controlled your emotions. You worked without an audience. You said no repeatedly. Now you endure boredom, and with it, you are building the foundation for unstoppable success. Next, we confront the element that breaks even the most disciplined people: mood.
Chapter 7. Discipline must outlast your mood. Most people live their lives at the mercy of their moods. Feeling good, they work. Feeling tired, they stop. Feeling frustrated, they quit. That's why most people fail. Here is the truth. Discipline must outlast your mood. Your feelings will never be reliable. Motivation will never be constant. Excitement will fade. But discipline, true discipline, operates independently. It does not negotiate with your energy levels. It does not wait for inspiration. It does not quit when you feel unmotivated. You have a choice. Follow your mood or follow your plan. That's the key. Most people think effort is optional depending on how they feel. They wait for alignment between desire and action. But desire is fleeting. Action is permanent. Discipline is permanent. Mood is temporary. Say it again. Discipline is permanent. Mood is temporary. Look at the people who succeed silently, consistently. Do you think they feel motivated every day? Do you think they wake up excited every morning? No. They feel frustration, fatigue, boredom, distraction, just like everyone else. The difference is simple. They act regardless. They follow the system they built. They commit to their minimum standard even when their brain says no. That's mental toughness. Your brain will always want an easier path. It will whisper, "Not today. You're too tired. You'll start tomorrow." Most people listen. The disciplined do not. You have a choice. Listen to the brain or follow your commitment. Here's the key. Moods are emotional. Discipline is behavioral. Emotions are temporary. Behavior is cumulative. It's not about willpower. It's about consistency. When your mood says quit, but your habit says continue, you win. When your feelings resist, but your system executes, you advance. When your comfort asks for pause, but your discipline drives action, you grow. That's the difference between those who achieve and those who talk about achievement. You don't need permission from your feelings. You don't need excitement. You don't need inspiration. You need a standard. You need a routine. You need a minimum that never negotiates. Repeat this. I act regardless of how I feel.
Most people think discipline is effort they muster once or twice a week. That's weakness disguised as strength. Real discipline is relentless. It shows up every day. It repeats when the brain screams. It executes when the heart hesitates. Discipline is not a mood-dependent skill. It's a lifestyle. Here's the instruction. Define your non-negotiable daily action. It doesn't matter if you feel like it. It doesn't matter if the world distracts you. You execute anyway. This is how habits compound. This is how results become inevitable. This is how mental toughness becomes unshakable. Your mood will always fluctuate. The world will always throw obstacles. Excuses will always appear. Discipline outlasts all of it. It outlasts your energy. It outlasts your frustration. It outlasts your doubt. And here's the secret most people overlook. Consistency builds confidence. When you act despite your mood, your mind learns trust. It learns that you are reliable, even when conditions aren't perfect. It learns that you don't quit when life feels hard. That is power. You have a choice. Quit when it feels hard, or keep going and build strength. Discipline is uncomfortable at first. Acting when unmotivated feels unnatural. But the more you practice, the easier it becomes. The resistance fades. Your brain stops negotiating. Your body stops complaining. You act automatically. You perform without question. You win quietly. That's the key. Most people quit because they expect feelings to drive action. The disciplined know that feelings are unreliable indicators. They follow a higher standard. Action over emotion. Say it again. Action over emotion. This is your training. Your work does not wait for excitement. Your goals do not pause for fatigue. Your results do not negotiate with comfort. Discipline is stronger than mood. Discipline is louder than doubt. Discipline is unbreakable. You've removed another excuse. You acted without waiting for readiness. You followed systems, not motivation. You controlled your emotions. You worked without an audience. You said no repeatedly. You endured boredom. Now you learn to stop explaining and start executing, because excuses are silent thieves of progress.
Chapter 8. Stop explaining. Start executing. Most people waste more time talking about what they're going to do than actually doing it. They explain their plans. They justify their choices. They share their intentions before they've taken action. And in doing so, they steal their own momentum. Here is the truth. Explaining is a silent thief of progress. Every word you spend defending, rationalizing, or promising is energy taken from execution. You have a choice: talk or act. That's the key. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone announce a goal only to disappear a week later? They explained instead of executing. They sought validation instead of results. Excuses are born in explanation. Discipline is born in execution. You don't need their permission. You don't need approval. You don't need acknowledgement. You just need action. Execution is simple. Not easy. Simple. Do the work, repeat, adjust, repeat, finish, repeat. Most people wait to explain before they act. They think validation will motivate them. They think recognition will keep them consistent. It won't. It never does. The disciplined act first. Results come second. Explanation comes last, or never. Say it again. Act first, explain later, or not at all. Look at history's most successful people. Did they constantly justify their efforts? Did they need to convince anyone of their path before stepping forward? No. They acted quietly. They executed relentlessly. They let results speak for themselves. That's the difference. Here's the hard truth.
If you explain before you execute, you give away energy, clarity, and control. You let ego dominate action. You let fear masquerade as reason. Discipline is saying, I don't negotiate with opinion. I don't defend intention. I deliver results. You have a choice. Protect your energy or give it away. Every explanation, every justification, every defensive conversation is energy spent on zero return. Every action is a deposit in your results account. You choose where your energy goes. That's mental toughness. Execution is repetitive. It's boring at first. It's uncomfortable. Explanation is immediate. It's satisfying. It feels productive. Most people pick the easy path. The disciplined pick the hard path. They act when no one is watching. They produce without applause. They achieve without announcing. That's the key. Here's your instruction. Stop talking about the work. Stop defending your time. Stop rationalizing your choices. Stop explaining why you're doing what you do. Instead, do the work. Finish the task. Measure results, not applause. Every time you explain before executing, you delay mastery. Every time you execute silently, you build power. Every day you act without justifying, your discipline compounds. You don't need their permission to act. You don't need their understanding. You don't need their recognition. You just need consistency. You just need repetition. You just need results. Say it again. Execution compounds. Explanation distracts. The most successful people don't justify, they deliver. They repeat. They dominate quietly. You have a choice. Excuses or results. Talking or doing. Temporary relief or permanent progress. Execution beats explanation every single time. Every single day. No exceptions. You've removed another excuse. You stopped waiting to feel ready. You stopped relying on motivation. You controlled your emotions. You worked without an audience. You said no repeatedly. You endured boredom. You outlasted your moods. Now it's time to face the truth most people refuse to accept. Mastery requires enduring the uncomfortable, the repetitive, and the mundane.
Chapter 9. Pressure reveals who you trained to be. Pressure does not create character. Pressure does not create discipline. Pressure does not create excellence. Pressure reveals it. Every challenge, every deadline, every high-stakes situation exposes your habits. It exposes your preparation, or lack of it. It exposes whether your discipline is real or borrowed. You have a choice. Train consistently or be exposed under pressure. That's the key. Most people think they perform under stress because of talent, or because of last-minute effort, or because they feel motivated. They're wrong. Pressure does not reward excuses. Pressure does not reward hope. Pressure rewards preparation. It rewards repetition. It rewards the quiet, disciplined habits you built long before the moment arrived. You don't need their permission. You don't need encouragement. You need preparation. Preparation is not glamorous. It is repetitive. It is uncomfortable. It is invisible. But under pressure, it becomes undeniable. Here's the reality most people ignore. You will be tested. You will face situations that demand calm when you feel panic. You will need focus when your brain wants distraction. You will need execution when your body wants rest. If you trained inconsistently, you will fail. If you trained partially, you will struggle. If you trained fully, you will thrive. That's the key. Pressure is the mirror that reflects your habits. It does not lie. It does not bend. It does not negotiate. Discipline is the preparation that ensures you pass the test. Emotional control is the shield that keeps you steady. Focus is the weapon that lets you cut through chaos. Say it again. Pressure reveals who you trained to be. Most people wait for emergencies to motivate them. They hope panic will force action. It won't. You must train before the emergency. You must build habits before the chaos. You must master your mind before the storm. This is why repetition matters. This is why boredom matters. This is why executing without recognition matters. All these quiet acts compound. They create an unshakable foundation. When pressure hits, you don't flinch, you don't hesitate, you act. That's mental toughness. That's emotional control. That's quiet discipline. You have a choice. Ignore training and crumble under pressure, or embrace it and dominate silently. Every day you act, you are building resilience. Every day you follow your systems, you are fortifying your foundation. Every day you endure discomfort, you are strengthening your default. You've removed another excuse. You stopped waiting to feel ready. You stopped relying on motivation. You controlled your emotions. You worked without an audience. You said no repeatedly. You endured boredom. You outlasted your moods. You stopped explaining and started executing. Now you see the truth. Pressure will come, but if you trained correctly, it will reveal the champion you already became. Next, we solidify identity. We make discipline inseparable from who you are.
Chapter 10. Make discipline your identity. Most people think discipline is something you do, something you force yourself to apply, something you borrow from willpower. That is temporary, that fades, that breaks. True discipline is not an action. It is who you are. It is your identity. You have a choice. You can chase results externally, or you can become disciplined at your core. That's the key. When discipline is your identity, excuses disappear. You no longer wait to feel ready. You no longer rely on motivation. You no longer need applause. Discipline is automatic. It flows without debate. It does not negotiate with emotion. It does not negotiate with mood. It does not negotiate with distraction. Repeat this. I am disciplined. Discipline defines me. Identity drives behavior far more powerfully than intention. The moment you believe you are disciplined, your actions align automatically. You act because that is who you are, not because someone is watching, not because you feel like it, not because it's convenient. All the lessons of this book, acting without readiness, relying on systems, controlling emotions, ignoring the audience, saying no repeatedly, enduring boredom, outlasting moods, executing without explanation, thriving under pressure, culminate here. They are no longer strategies. They are your nature. You don't ask yourself, should I work today? You don't debate, do I feel like it? You don't negotiate with distraction. You act. You persist. You execute. Because that is who you are. Most people never reach this point. They treat discipline as a temporary tool. They borrow strength. They mimic habits. They chase motivation. And when life gets hard, they crumble. You are different now. Your identity is your armor. It protects you when the world tries to pull you off course. It sustains you when motivation dies. It powers you when excuses call. Every decision you make reinforces it. Every repetition, every silent action, every no strengthens it. Every moment you act despite discomfort, doubt, boredom, or pressure, you embed it deeper. You have a choice. Be disciplined occasionally or become discipline itself. That's the difference between temporary success and unstoppable dominance. Here's the instruction. Stop thinking of discipline as an external effort. Stop planning to be disciplined tomorrow. Stop hoping motivation will appear. Decide now. Act now. Identify now. I am disciplined. Discipline is who I am. Excuses cannot touch me. Distraction cannot sway me. I act because I am disciplined. Say it again. Make it internal. Make it permanent. This is the final layer of mental toughness. You no longer fight to do the work. You no longer push through with effort. You do it because it is natural. Your identity dictates your behavior. Your behavior builds your results. Your results reinforce your identity. It's a cycle. It is unbreakable. It is unstoppable. In 2026, distractions will be louder than ever. Excuses will be plentiful. Motivation will fail. Pressure will arrive without warning. But you will not falter. You will not react emotionally. You will not hesitate. Because this is no longer a strategy. This is who you are. Discipline is permanent. Excuses are irrelevant. Results are inevitable. You have completed the journey. You stopped waiting to feel ready. You stopped relying on motivation. You controlled your emotions. You worked without an audience. You said no repeatedly. You endured boredom. You outlasted moods. You executed without explanation. You thrived under pressure. And now you are discipline itself. Remember this. Identity is your strongest weapon. Who you are defines what you do. What you do reinforces who you are. No one can take this from you. No circumstances can break it. No excuses can infiltrate it. Discipline is now you. Act accordingly. And with that, everything else becomes automatic. Every day, every task, every challenge, you respond as the person you have chosen to be. Disciplined, unstoppable, and in control.
2026 will not reward potential. It will reward consistency. Not talent, not motivation, not emotional intensity. It will reward the person who shows up calmly, does the work without drama, and repeats the process when no one is watching. You now understand this. Excuses are emotional habits. Discipline is a trained response. From this point forward, you don't wait. You don't negotiate. You don't explain. You decide what must be done, and you do it daily, quietly, without emotion. That is your challenge. Remove excuses at the root. Build disciplined focus. And let 2026 be the year your results finally speak for you. 2026 will not reward potential. It will reward consistency. Not talent, not motivation, not emotional intensity. It will reward the person who shows up calmly, does the work without drama, and repeats the process when no one is watching. You now understand this. Excuses are emotional habits. Discipline is a trained response. From this point forward, you don't wait. You don't negotiate. You don't explain. You decide what must be done, and you do it daily, quietly, without emotion. That is your challenge. Remove excuses at the root. Build disciplined focus. And let 2026 be the year your results finally speak for you.